Us today on Coder Conversations is CEO at FlexPods and fitness trainer and media personality, Laurent Amzallag. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It's an honor.
Thanks for coming on.
I'm
Of
Kevin, and I'm
course.
here with,
Oh, I'm Brian, co-host.
and yeah, man, it's absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And we see your shirt there, FlexPods, and I know that's your
Free
business as well.
marketing.
Exactly.
Remarketing. There we go.
Yeah, let's get this kicked off and tell us a little bit about your business there.
Yeah. So basically, like you mentioned, I'm a wellness guy. I'm a fitness consultant. I'm a fitness personality, if you will, in the media, and that's been my life. This is what I did in my whole career. And about 3 years ago, I opened up FlexPod. And what FlexPod is, it's a space subdivided in different studios that I rent out to other wellness professionals, whether you're a trainer, whether you're a physical therapist, massage therapist, yoga, Pilates, all that kind of stuff. And you don't have a space, you don't want to work in a fitness studio, you want to run your own business, but you don't want to necessarily open your own studio because it's really expensive. Then I
Expensive.
give you that. It's very expensive. Then I give you that opportunity to run your own business in a private setting at a much cheaper price.
That's amazing.
So, like, instead
That's
of
the
somebody
concept.
having to rent like a building or something, you just give them their own little space there, and for a
Exactly.
fraction of the price.
Exactly. And some people could rent it by the hour. So, some people do it by the month because they have a big roster of clients. So it's better for them to do it that way. But in the end, it's much cheaper to do it this way than opening up your own space and having all those costs and the headaches that come with it.
It sounds really flexible.
Exactly. That's why I call it flex, and they're pods. And they're pods. It's not.
And
It's
they're
it's
pods.
flex also like this, but because it's the wellness. But it's really the flexibility that you get out of that, which is a space at your own time whenever you need it, and
Yeah.
that's all you pay for, kind of thing.
How'd you come up with that concept? That's
Well,
pretty
it's been
original.
something. Yeah, it's been something that's been simmering in my head, and I think the whole pandemic, was the one that really was a catalyst to kind of push me into it. Because I was working in studios as well. I was working in studios, and I was doing home clients as well. So I was all day long, like going from house to house or in a
Wow.
studio. And then when you work in a studio, as many fitness professionals will tell you, you got to give 50% to the house. You know,
Wow.
so
Wow.
you're working hard like this, you give 50% to the gym, and in the end, like you never your boss. But the idea of opening up my own fitness facility just to do my clients wasn't appealing, because it's a lot of headaches. You gotta, as soon as you become a gym owner, then you have another layer of responsibilities that come with it, administrative responsibilities that I didn't want to have. So what I did is
Yeah.
I created this collective. So basically, it's a shared space where everybody, kind of share the space. But when I say share the space, everybody has their own studios. It's like an enclosed studio. All the different studios are equipped a little differently, so people rent a studio that fits best to their style, and it's less headaches for everybody else.
And is it all in like one location, or are they
Yes, so
spaced
it's
out
one
from
big
different
space.
cities?
Yeah, and that's what we're doing right now. We're opening up another one here in the DC area, the Washington DC area. We're opening, and then the idea is to go and open up those pods all over the United States.
Expand. Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great goal.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea, especially for fitness entrepreneurs who don't necessarily want to undertake the cost of leasing out a space. They have to pay for a year and
Exactly.
worry about everything that comes with that.
And doing it myself, because that's the first time I do a brick and mortar of any sort. There's so many things that go with it, other than just, okay, I'm going to open up a fitness facility. First, then you have to, you know kind of put all the equipment, which is expensive. Then you have to set up the space. When you get a good space, it's not exactly the way you want it, so you got all that expense
Sure.
that come with it. There's all the headaches that come with it. It's unbelievable, the amount of work that come in creating a wellness facility that feels good, that is welcoming, that has all the equipment, that is functional but yet nice to be in. So there's a lot of things that I didn't know because I never did that before. So it
Right.
was an all brand new kind of adventure, if you will, that I had to go through. And let me tell you, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But now that you do it with, where it's a shared space where all those fitness professionals work together. And the good thing about this is what we do also, and I have so many different contacts with medical offices, with PT offices, with a lot of different people in the wellness space, where people refer a lot of their patients to me when they're done with
Oh,
their
wow.
medical treatment or whatever it is. Those people have to continue training. They have to continue some kind of wellness protocol. And what I do is I also feed it to the people that already are in that ecosystem, if you will, because I know what they do. I understand their styles. So I know, okay, I'm getting a client that has this kind of issue. I know exactly who to refer it to, right? So we have this kind of, feeding, business where people come in, and I am able to distribute them to those trainers, even though they're running their own business. I just give them that kind because I trust them more than somebody else that I don't know about. So it becomes this whole community, if you will, and everybody kind of refers to one another.
That's awesome. Can you tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about your TV appearances? I know I was looking through your bio. You had NBC, CBS, CW, I believe.
Yeah. So I here in the DC area, and I've done also Dr. Oz, nationally,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've done some stuff with Oprah as well. That's a passion of mine. I love to inspire. I love to motivate people, and I said, how could I inspire more people at once than just doing one client at a time, right? Because I also did classes, so group exercise classes. So I've had a group of 30, 40, 50, 100 people sometimes. I'll send you some videos where I have thousands of people, especially when I do those events for the Heart Association, for example. That was just last month in November, and I'm their fitness guy. And basically, I do a whole fitness thing for about 10,000 people on the National Mall every year.
Wow.
It's huge. I'll send you the video so you could just have an idea of the grasp of the amount of people.
Yeah.
But
Sounds
it's just
intense.
great. But that's what I love, because in that 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever I'm on stage, I'm able to reach 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Compared to just doing one client at a time, which I enjoy a lot. I love my clients very, very much, and that's challenging for me. But I also, one of my passions is to inspire the more people, the most people that I can. And that's why I started with radio first. I did radio, where local radio stations, and even a radio station in Wisconsin, they would call in and say, "Hey, we have Laurent. He's got some tips for us." So it will be for people that are in the car, like what are the tips that they could get. And then I got into TV, so that really expanded my reach, which is exactly what I love to do. So I've done stuff on NBC, Fox, ABC, the CW network, and I do that on a regular basis on their either morning shows or whatever show they ask me to come
So really, you've been able to inspire millions, because
on.
being on something like Oprah,
Yeah.
Oh, with
Oprah.
Oprah, yeah,
It's a
and,
big.
and even with
Can
Dr.
you
Oz.
speak? Yeah. Can you speak to the Oprah appearance? That's pretty big.
Oh, so Oprah, what happened? It was so I was at the time I was working out at a gym in Washington D.C., and it was a very fancy gym. And Oprah was in town and was looking for a fitness person, and she was asking around, who would you recommend for, because she was doing this tour called Live Your Best Life Tour, and she went from city to city, just kind of doing the same thing, inspiring women. It was catered to women, how to live their lives better, how to not depend on anybody else. So there was something where she showed them how to change your oil, how to do this, how to stay healthy. And I was the guy that did that part. But she was in DC and she was asking around, uh, who would you recommend to do that kind of stuff? And my name kept coming over and over. So she
Okay.
hired me for that. And then I followed her again in Dallas, and I did another one in Dallas as well.
Wow.
Oh wow,
And I
wow.
got to meet her over the years a few times also after that.
Yeah.
Wonderful woman. She's amazing.
Yeah. What's
As a
she? What's
person,
she
as a person,
like?
she's amazing.
Yeah. What is she like? Kind of off camera? Is she different off
Ah,
camera?
fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic woman. Yeah. Many times she would come back. the gym that I worked at was inside a Ritz-Carlton hotel. So she would stay at the
Nice.
Ritz-Carlton, and then she would go and work out with her trainer at the gym that I worked at. And then I would go up to her. One day she was with Gail, her friend Gail. She
Gail
was
King.
also
Yeah.
Gail King on she was on
Yeah.
CBS. And another time she was alone with her trainer, and I would just approach her and say, hey, because obviously, like, she hired me. She didn't know who I was. And I went to her and said, listen, I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to kind of be on your Live Your Best Life tour. My name is Laurent, and I don't
Yeah.
know, like, uh, if you saw what I did or anything like that. I wanted to thank you. And then we talked a little bit and things like that. And she was wonderful.
Like, did your life like change overnight? Like now you're kind of a star after appearing on the show, or
No, it's no one of those. I mean, I got, when the word got out that I was on the show, then other local stations would call me in and things like that. But it's not like all of a sudden you go from that, like for example, Dr. Oz, he was on her show and then he got his own show. I didn't get one of those things, unfortunately. But for me, it was, hey, for that moment, I was able to inspire
yeah,
whatever, how many people that watched that particular episode, or that were in that auditorium that day, right? So for me, that was a big thing. And having that, I mean, knowing that Oprah recommended me for that, I mean, that has some kind of weight. So that's why it helped me with other stuff after that event.
That's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Now more than ever, health is extremely important because the jobs now they're more and more sedentary, and
Yeah.
you know,
And I do a lot of that. And I do a lot of that. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was uh, I was at a radio station, and they asked me to just show their employees how to stay healthy at their desk. Right? I do a lot of that. I do a lot of that. I call it desk exercise sessions, where I go in and I just develop this program for people that actually sit at a desk, and all different kind of stretches that you could do, all different kind of exercises that you could do at a desk. You don't need any equipment, just a chair, and take those 5 minutes a day and just do those stretches and exercises, and you'll feel much better. You know, what I found when I do those sessions is a lot of people think that in order to stay healthy, they have to spend hours at a gym. That's the one thing that I hear all the time. Oh, I don't have the time to spend hours at the gym. You don't need to. All you need is a few minutes a day just to kind of reboot your body. The body wants to move. That's how
yeah,
we're made. That's how we're built. It wants to move. When you force it to be in this position all day, it's not happy. That's why our back hurts. That's why we have hip issues, shoulder issues, neck issues, right? Now people are texting all day, so they're in this position. So that now there's a big issue called the text neck. Because we're developing a lot of problems, in the neck area. So people don't understand that it doesn't take hours at a gym to do that. All you need to do is just move a little bit. And once you move, you start feeling better. And when you feel better, then you say, well, what if I did this? And then that snowball starts rolling. But
yeah.
you gotta start,
Wow.
you gotta push that ball off the cliff first.
Would you be able to demonstrate any of the desk ones?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. First of all, one of my favorite ones, and I don't have a chair that has a back, but one of my favorite ones, we talk about we're always at a desk this way. So what happens is our chest muscles shorten, and when they shorten, the shoulders follow, so they start rounding, right? One of my favorite stretches is you'll lean forward like this, okay? You stretch that little back, and then you lean back on the chair and just kind of drop those arms to open up the chest muscles, right? And the whole idea is just to lengthen those muscles to push those shoulders back where they should be in the right posture, instead of just being like this. That creates all kinds of problems. And a lot of times people will come and they'll say, God, my neck hurts me. It has nothing to do with the neck. It's because we're in this position. The chest muscles are like this. We want to open it up, right? Another great exercise, I'm going to stretch. I'm going to back it up, is the figure four stretch, okay? I
Oh
don't know if
yeah.
you've ever had piriformis issues where you have pain shooting down the leg or numbness. A lot of times people that sit at a desk will feel that, right? So this is
Yeah.
one of my favorites as well, is you cross your leg. This is my right leg on top of my left. And then I just go down towards the floor, and then you'll feel that stretch on the muscle we call the piriformis muscle. You're going to hold it there for 2 seconds. You release. You repeat that 5 times on that side, and you do the same thing on the other side, and that will open up those muscles of the piriformis, which is a deep muscle in the glute, and that compresses the sciatic nerve. And when that happens, then that's why people start feeling the pain down the leg. And it's an easy fix.
Mm.
It takes a few seconds a day, but that's why I tell people, take that time. Your body wants that, right? And then if you do that on a regular basis, most of those issues that people feel, back issues, shoulder issues, neck issues, whatever it is, they disappear.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you made a great point that people just need to move, and it's not necessarily about the equipment, because I think people make a mistake that having big muscles means you're healthy. Like when I used to lift
Right.
weights, when I used to do calisthenics, I used to feel better than when I did weights. So it's not necessarily like how you look on the outside that determines your health.
Absolutely. It's not about that. Like, what you see, unfortunately, there's some good and some bad with social media. But when it's the bad is taken where, people try to compare themselves with those people that just
Yeah.
expose themselves and look how I look, and this is what I used for that, and things like that.
Yeah.
People start feeling, well, why am I not looking like this? I want to look like that. And a lot we don't have, everybody's different. All you have to do is move your body. You feel good when you move your body. You don't have to look like that, like her or like him, to feel good, right? Feeling good is just moving your body in different ways. Uh, what you see over there, you don't know how that person got there. You don't know what they took. A lot of times they might take some substances for that. You don't know, right? All you see is a body that's well developed, but you know that doesn't give you any more information than that. So you can't believe anything, everything you see on the internet. I want people to, if you see something like this, get inspired by it. Say, you know what? If that person, looks that good, then hey, I could look that good. But let me start with that few minutes a day, and that few minutes a day will become an hour, and then that's how you change you got to change your mindset first,
Yeah.
and then the body will
Yeah.
follow. People think, I'm going to change my body first, and then my mind will be better. No, it doesn't work that way. First, you change your mind, and the
Yeah.
body will follow. And
It'll
and that's what I
follow.
tell people. Just start with that mentality. I'm going to start with 10 minutes a day, whatever it is, and then from there, I'm going to change more and more little things in my life.
That's a great point you mentioned. It to me, it always comes down to the mind, like you mentioned, comparing yourself to others, and trying to. I personally found like trying to do too much was my downfall. Like I try to work out for like hours a day, and you can't keep that up consistently, and you eventually just
Right.
stop because that's not realistic.
Yeah. Right.
No, exactly. It's for a lot of people, it's not. A lot of people are busy. They work a lot. They have families and things like that. Asking them to do 2 hours, even an hour a day is a lot. What I tell people is start with 5 minutes a day. See how good you feel, because you're gonna feel good, and that's something you feel instantly, right? If you've never done it, you don't know what you're missing. But if you start with 5 minutes just of stretching, of breathing, of just movement, and I'll give you another example. I'll go a little further because I want you to see the calves. So just doing this motion, okay, activating the calves. And I keep telling people the calf muscles are pumps. Every time you walk, those pumps activate and pushes back the blood from the lower body back to the heart, right? Blood goes down with gravity, but what pushes it back up?
Right.
So you have little valves in the veins, but also the calves just pushes the blood back, right? But if you sit for long periods of time, you're not allowing that blood circulation to happen, right? Just doing that just kind of lets the blood circulate. It's a small little thing. You could even do it while you're typing on your computer, or doing whatever. It's one of those things where you don't have to stop everything you're doing, but it starts with something like this, and then you say, you know what? Let me go for that little walk at lunchtime, and then you know what? Let me change my breakfast. You know, I'm gonna cut down on my alcohol, and then next thing you know, all those little things will fall in place. Never say to yourself, I'm going to do this, that, and that's what happens during we're getting close to the holidays, and the New Year's resolutions. People say, I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to do this. And then what
Yeah.
happens? 2 weeks later,
You
boom, they're
stop.
back,
Done.
because it's so overwhelming, right? It's like you want to change everything. It does. It's too much for the
Yeah.
body. And people don't understand the body, the mind is very, very lazy. It's going to push you to doing the least amount of things until it becomes a habit. If you when you brush your teeth, you don't think about it, right? But I have two young kids. I remember when they were kids trying to get their teeth brushed. I had to run after them with a toothbrush, right? Because
Right,
that
right.
habit wasn't formed yet. Once you create that habit, it goes into a different part of the brain, and then it becomes an automatic thing. You don't have to think about it anymore. And that takes time, that takes repetitions, right? And that's why you have to create that repetition at the beginning. All right, I'm going to remind myself every day, I'm going to do 5 minutes of stretches, of movements. And then after that, after the first week, 2 weeks, you won't have to think about it anymore because that's part of your day, just like brushing your teeth or combing your hair or whatever other habit that's been created.
Would you say 90 days? I know they say 90 days is the time.
Yeah, they say
Uh,
like some people say
yeah,
21. There was the 21 days to create a habit. It really depends on
right,
the
about
habit, right?
habits.
It really depends on the habit. Some will take a little longer, some will take less long. I don't like to give a day, because it's very different for everybody else. But I just say I could guarantee that if you start doing something on a regular basis, that will become a habit. And I'll give you another example. Sometimes you'll drive to work in the morning, and next thing you're at work, you're like, how the hell did I get here? Like, because you don't even think about how you get there. You know exactly how to get there. You turn on that street, and sometimes your mind is somewhere else, but your body took you there somehow. It's the same thing with creating a healthy habit. At first, it's going to be hard. Everything is hard at first before it becomes easy. So that's why I tell people, okay, at first, all right, it's going to be a habit. Put it on your phone as a reminder. At noontime, I'm going to stop everything I do and I'm going to do those stretches. You do that for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But I promise you, by the fifth week, you won't even have to put that timer anymore. It's gonna be automatic.
Wow.
Yeah, once you make something part of your habits, then it's really powerful because you're just gonna be doing that consistently, and like you mentioned, you don't have to think about it anymore. And but just
Exactly.
making something a habit, I think that's where most people get stuck at. And like you mentioned,
Right.
don't try to do too much; just do a little bit every day, and then you can always build on that later.
Exactly. That's the number one thing is start small. Take just little bite size, something that you could commit to, right?
Right.
Yeah, I could commit to just 10 minute stretches every day. Just say that to yourself. If that's what you could commit to, great. You're gonna feel better. Once you start feeling better, then you'll want to do more naturally, without even
Naturally.
forcing, without even anybody telling you should do this or that, right? So
Right, right, right.
think about the smallest little thing. All right, what is the smallest little thing that I know I could do? That's so easy. I don't even have to think about it, right? You start committing to that, and then other things will follow. That's guaranteed. That's not even something. Oh, it's a science or what? No, that's guaranteed. That you'll feel better, and then once you feel better, you'll add on to other things automatically.
Yeah, I mean, so I teach drums and I always tell the
Ah,
students, look, you want to get the metronome work in, and
yeah,
that can be the boring part, right? You put it on 60 beats per minute, click, click, you put it on 100 beats per minute, click, like you're just playing alone to the click. And it
yeah,
does
yeah,
get
yeah.
very repetitive, it does get very boring, but I tell all my students, look, you have to put the time in. So even if you could do that 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 7 days a week or 5 days a week, if you do that, you're going to notice massive changes compared to if you were to just take 1 hour or 2 hour block on a Sunday,
Yeah,
just
once
try
a
to
week.
cram everything into like one little space. I
Yeah,
just tell
yeah.
them, look, you got to space it out. You got to just do a little bit at a time, and you're going to start noticing massive changes.
Absolutely. So, and what I'm describing here, it really applies to everything, right? You're talking about music. If you want to be a better drum player, you got to put the reps, right? You got to do it on a regular basis. I mean, you're not born knowing how to do the drums. If you compare how you played at the beginning compared to how you play 2 years later, it's like second nature for you, right? That's what fitness becomes. It becomes second nature once you put in the reps, once you kind of created that habit. that you do it on a regular basis, then it becomes a natural thing. You don't have to think about it, and you feel better. You just feel better. You
Yep.
know.
I think that feeling is a huge thing because most of the a lot of people are dying from heart disease,
Mm.
diabetes, et cetera, and all of this derives from a lack of movement and a lack of proper diet, and these are things that are under our control.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I did a whole talk on a TED talk on the topic of the Mediterranean diet, right? Because I grew up with that. I mean, I grew up I was born in Morocco, in Casablanca, Morocco. So I grew up with that Mediterranean diet, right? Fruits and vegetables, everything, not a lot what do you call that? Processed foods,
Yep.
that kind of stuff, which unfortunately, that's what we have a lot in this country, right? So that doesn't mean we have a lot of that here, but that doesn't mean that you have to indulge in that, right? Create your own healthy your ways to eat healthy, and that's not that hard. That's not that hard, right? I think again, it's another kind of 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 habit that we have. We eat certain foods, every day. That's on Tuesday, this is what I'm going to have. On Wednesday, this is what I'm going to have. You create Taco Tuesday, right? We've all heard about that. I'm going to come a little closer.
Yeah.
so so you create that healthy kind of diet that you want to create. We talk about diets, but I don't like that word diet, because diet to me means that you're cutting out things out of your
Cutting
diet, and
out. Yeah.
yeah,
Cutting out.
and when you think about a diet where you restrict things, that never works. That never works, because it's not something that's sustainable, right?
I
I'm
think that's the
more in
main thing, sustainability. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about sustainability, sustainability, because that's not a natural word for me. You want to be able to adopt something that you're able to do on the long run, right? You remember, I don't know if you remember, that there was the Atkins diets for a little while way back
Yes.
then, and all those like diets that came after. That's not stuff you could stay for the rest of your life. Yeah, of course you could do. Some people could do it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They'll lose weight, of course, because you're restricting calories, normal. But then you're off that. What happens? Then you gain
It
the
all
weight
comes
plus,
back.
Yep.
and
It all comes
plus, right?
back.
Me, I'm more about doing something that you could sustain for the rest of your life. And that doesn't mean that you got to cut all the cookies and all the stuff that you enjoy. No, it's about having it in moderation, right? You could still
Yeah.
Yeah.
enjoy all that stuff in moderation. And let me tell you, when you start feeling better, when you start changing something and you're like, oh my God, I feel better, and you were, call it a cookie lover, you'll be able still to enjoy those cookies, but in a much lower pace than you did before, without anybody telling you, because now that mindset has shifted in another way, where you're able to enjoy those things that you used to enjoy, but in a more controlled way, right? And to me, that's success, because that's sustainable. That's you could sustain that more than saying, oh, I'm going to cut carbs, I'm going to cut this, I'm going to cut it. Yeah, we don't live in a forest here where we just have berries and you know
And
so
didn't
so
the didn't the Atkins die the Atkins guy, didn't he die?
yeah, unfortunately he passed away. I think he fell or something on his head. I don't remember the exact story. That was a long time ago. uh I mean, yeah, if you eat protein all the time, and obviously there's been so many different variations of his diet with different names, but it comes to,
Yeah.
the basis of it is you cut carbs, right? Which, because these are the things that turn into sugar and things like that. So there's been a lot of different variations of that particular diet over the years. But really, when you think about it, could you stay like this for the rest of your life? Most people won't. Maybe a few people can, and they're disciplined that way, and then, but most people can't. And I try to explain to people, you don't have to. You don't have to. What you should do is cut mostly processed foods, because that's the stuff that really is bad for you. You should eat more fruits and vegetables. You should cut down on the red meats, right? Because red meat is inflammatory. Uh, and other than that, I mean, just have everything in moderation.
Yeah. I don't
When
think.
you look at people that live in countries like Italy and Spain, and if you look at the way they eat, you know, and first of all, a lot of their meals are they're all together when they have those meals, and that adds something. When you compare how we eat here compared to those countries, we here we'll take a sandwich on the road and we're going from meeting to meeting, and that's the what we do here, right? Over
Yeah.
there at lunchtime, most of the time they get together, they come home for lunch, and they all sit down and have a meal together, right? And that makes them eat slower, right?
Yeah.
And the digestion has time to kind of get processed more than just going on the go. And those meals are prepared, with a lot of fruits and vegetables and natural, products more than processed foods like pizzas and all that kind of stuff. Right?
Yeah, I know. I think in Italy they call it siesta. Is that right?
Yeah. And even my wife is from Argentina. They have that
Everything
also
shuts down.
from yeah from
Everything
a
shuts
certain
down for a
time.
couple hours.
Shuts down. You know,
It's so
they get.
different from here, with a
I know.
24
I know.
24-hour McDonald's, 24-hour CVS.
I know. It's here. It's convenience, right? It's
Yeah.
convenience. You could have anything at any time of the day, right? And I have a lot of clients with like that. I have clients that work in media, and they tell me like sometimes they'll be at the studio until very late covering a story, and they'll just order pizzas and things like that, and they'll just kind of snarf food down, and at the end, and then you wake up the next, and then boom, you're like, you're 10 pounds or 20 pounds heavier. You're like, what the hell happened? You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
those late nights, just scarfing down food that way. And that's the kind of rebooting of the brain that I help them with, all right, I know you're gonna stay at the studio late. Let's think about different snacks that you could take with you, which will allow you to eat healthier and not, because when you're hungry, the problem is when you're hungry, what happens? Like you'll eat anything, right? The worst thing, and that's why they
Yeah.
Yeah.
say, do not go to a grocery store hungry, right? Because when you go to a grocery store
Yeah.
hungry, you'll buy things that you would never buy if you weren't hungry. You'll buy, because the body, when it's hungry, it wants stuff that really fills, like fatty foods and sugary foods and things like that. That's what the body wants, right? Because it's a quick source of energy, and that's what you end up putting in your basket when you would not normally do. So the same thing, you want to avoid being hungry, because when you're hungry, then you start making bad choices.
If you think about it, all these fast foods, they're all the same kind of foods like bread, red processed, red meat,
Yeah.
and you just go get your pizza, go get a hamburger, and you're eating this day after day. And a lot of this stuff has chemicals to make the food more addictive, to make you crave it more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about those chips like Doritos and things like that,
Oh
they have
man.
they have food engineers. They have food engineers that come up with savors and tastes that make you addicted to them. And next thing you know, like you're back. How many times have you opened a bag of Doritos and then boom, it's
It's
a
gone.
family size, and then it's gone, right? Like
It's gone.
you don't even feel full. It's just like it's
No,
just so
yeah.
boom.
You
It's it's
feel
it's,
well, you
it's
feel
done,
terrible. You
and you
feel
feel
terrible after
horrible.
you
You
do
always
that.
you feel you feel horrible, right? But again,
Yeah.
look, I know we live in this kind of society. Yes, they're gonna be Doritos. Yes, it's gonna be the Chips Ahoy's and all that stuff. I'm not saying cut that 100%. I'm saying you're able to still enjoy those things if that's what you enjoy eating, but in moderation, right? And when that mindset is shifted, then doing it in moderation becomes so much easier than if it's not set yet.
And
So
then
that's why I
it's
say you got to
it's
work on the brain
less then it's less of a diet and more of just a way of
of a
life,
lifestyle,
of a
of a
Yeah.
lifestyle.
lifestyle. Yeah, great
Exactly.
point.
And that's the whole talk I had when I did my TED talk.
Well, speaking of like addiction, it's pretty interesting. It's like once you stop eating those foods, you lose the craving because whatever chemicals triggering that is no longer in your body. Like
They're
what's
gone.
weird is like, when I eat fast food, I'm like, this isn't even good, but I'm just riding along and I'm craving like, oh, I want a hamburger from McDonald's.
Yeah.
And it is not even good, but there's something in there that's making me want that particular hamburger.
It's those commercials, man. I'm telling you, marketing is a powerful thing, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes I'll look at at those commercials about hamburgers, like whether it's Popeyes or what's the other, Chick-fil-A, or you know, and they make it look so appetizing. You're like, God, that's gotta taste good. And I gotta be honest with you, I have never had Popeyes. I've never had Chick-fil-A. I've never had that. Now, when I was a kid, I ate, yes, at McDonald's a few times. I haven't been at a McDonald's probably since I was 6, 7 years old, right? Because it's not
Yeah.
something that I crave. It's not something that I don't even. I remember back then it tasted good, right? But it's not something that I crave. So if I don't crave it, I'm not gonna have it, right? And I crave more something that's nutritious. I crave more an apple because I love that kind of stuff, because that's how my brain is now, right? That doesn't mean that I don't eat cookies. My wife is a baker, so
Oh, wow.
I'm always her first test before she puts it out there. So I'm happy to do that, but I don't abuse it. I'll have a few pieces here and there, but I don't abuse it. And I feel a little better because she's the one who made it, so I know where the ingredients come from. When you buy them at the grocery store, usually they're packed with chemicals, so they could
Yeah.
sit on the shelf for 3 months, right?
Right.
So I rather have something that's homemade or baked at home. I know where those ingredients come from, but I'm not saying that I never have, cookies or cakes or things like that. I do, but I have it in moderation. And you could have that and still be
Hmm.
healthy and still live a healthy life, when you do that in moderation. And it becomes so much more enjoyable because when you have it, oh my God, like that's great. I earned it, and now I could continue with my routine.
Like you're saying, moderation, it just seems like it is all mind. It is all the
Yeah,
mindset. You wake up, you're looking at the clock. Oh, I'm kind of hungry. What am I going to eat? Go into the kitchen. You grab something heavy. You grab,
yeah,
or you make bacon, or eggs aren't bad, but I think too many of us, we just go for that pleasure food, especially at night, and
yeah.
that's a huge part of the problem. I know for me, I used to eat chips, but I started cutting out chips maybe a month or two ago, and
Okay,
now I don't even crave them. I don't
right.
crave them anymore. I used to buy
Yeah.
like those blue chips, the tortilla chips.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Right,
So, I used to have, a little, small portion every night, 7 days a week. And
right.
now that I've just stopped buying it, I have no craving for it. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting what you're saying.
Yeah, like I said, it's more of a habit than oh, I need to have it, right? It's more of a habit. It's like people that come home and they have a glass of wine as soon as they come home, right? It's
Yeah.
just a habit. Are they thirsty for a glass of wine? No, no. It's just the habit of walking in and having a glass of wine. It's just connected together. It's like people that smoke sometimes after they have dinner. There's something that you associate a habit with, right? So you have a glass of wine when you come back from work. You have a cigarette after you had dinner, whatever it is. There's an association. But if you're able to break that habit or break that association, then instead of coming home to a glass of wine, you come home to a glass of sparkling water, for example. And you're not breaking the habit. You're just subbing
Yeah.
something with something a little healthier, right? So I think that there's also ways to kind of trick your mind into that, doing that kind of stuff. Instead of taking chips and dipping it in I don't know, like the queso or whatever it is, like that melted cheese. I don't even know what that is, like
The
Velveeta, whatever
Taco
that is.
Bell, Taco Bell.
The Velveeta cheese or
Yeah.
cheese
Ah,
whiz, or the thing that comes in the can. Like, first of all, cheese that is not refrigerated, that sits on the shelf. Like, I don't even know how that happens in nature. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But instead of doing that, you use hummus, for example, or a tomato based kind of dip or something. Then you're substituting something that's bad with something that's a little better, right? So you're not breaking the whole habit, and then with time you start enjoying something else. And again, it's about the habit. If you cut that habit or substitute the habit with something else, then I think that's the way to do it.
I also think
how
it's incredibly important to build like the environment as well. Like if you have a bunch of snacks in your house, then when you come home, you're gonna go grab the chips. So take
If it's
those out,
there, if it's there, you're gonna have them.
replace it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
ultimately though, what would you say a person needs to do? You know, they wake up. What does that person need to do to avoid the, oh, I'm going to grab a cookie because I see the, oh, I'm going to grab a Twizzler. I'm going to grab a,
Right.
a Starburst. They just see it when they wake up. Okay, yeah, let me just have one of these. How would you recommend people sort of break that process, that association with, okay, I'm going to get up, then I'm going to have something sugary, or a glass
Right.
of orange juice, pure sugar. Yeah, how would you recommend best someone
Well,
break
yeah.
those little habits? Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's no kind of quick way to say, all right, you're going to do this, and all of a sudden, oh my God, why didn't I do that earlier? Right. There's no. It's like a smoker. I mean, you're asking a smoker, hey, you gotta stop smoking, right? So, how do you do that? It's hard because the body is used to a certain thing that it enjoys, because the brain is wired for pleasure. That's how we are. That's the way we are, right? It hates pain. It loves pleasure. So creating a habit when you're going for a cookie or a Twizzler, like you said, or a Snickers bar, something like that. That's pleasure, right? So you gotta learn how to create another thing that will give you pleasure. So instead of waking up and going for that cookie, I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna bypass that kitchen, and I'm gonna go for a 5 minute walk, or I'm just gonna go upstairs and just do some breathing kind of stretches or something like this, because that's how you rewire your brain. Then you're like, all right, then you start thinking more clearly. Do I really want that cookie? Instead of going with that instinct like a shark, just kind of, where's that meat, right?
Right. Where is
uh,
it? Where is it?
where is it? Like you want to create another habit, if you will, that will counter that one that you've been having all this. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not
Right.
saying it's easy, but the person, and what I've learned over the years is that you could not tell a smoker to stop smoking. You cannot tell somebody that's super overweight, you got to lose weight. A person, that particular person has to come up to a point in their life where they're like, enough is enough. I can't live like this anymore.
Yeah.
I cannot weigh 300 pounds anymore. I don't feel good. I have a family. I want to be here with my kids, get married. I want to see my grandchildren. There's a point that you're like, I can't do this anymore, right? And that person has to reach sometimes that point, unfortunately, in order to change habits, right? And a lot of times, unfortunately, it happens where somebody just lives that lifestyle and then they have a heart attack. And what happens when you have a heart attack? Then you're obligated to do that, right? You go into a program where they rehab you, where you start kind of doing exercises, and then you have a nutritionist that tells you how to eat healthy. Why do you need it to have a heart attack before you do that? Do it before you have a heart attack, right?
Do it
So
now. Yeah.
exactly, do it now so you don't have to do it later when you have to, because unfortunately you had some kind of issue. So I'm saying, instead of this habit that you've had for many years, going into the kitchen first thing in the morning and having your cookies, you know what? Bypass, go do a 5 minute movement session, and then your mind will reset and say, you know what? I think I'm gonna have something healthy. I'm gonna start doing oatmeal, or I'm gonna make maybe my own little morning cake. I'm gonna bake it myself, with less
Yeah.
sugar, with I know the ingredients, and I'm just gonna start with that, and you'll see how everything will come together after that.
Yeah.
It's not about, oh, tell this person they can eat this. It's never gonna happen. You gotta first let that person come up to the realization, yeah, you know what, I'm smoking too much, I can't do this anymore. And then that person starts kind of reevaluating themselves and starts coming up with the steps to get there. And one of the steps is to create another habit. And it, and I know it from my grandfather that used to smoke. The habit is to have something in their mouth, right? That's the habit
Yeah.
when they have a cigarette. So one of the things that he used to do to counter that was to chew gum. And that was creating another habit. He's got something in his mouth, right? It's not a cigarette, or candy, but that
Right.
was the substitution that
Yeah.
that that made him stop with the habit of smoking, right? The nicotine, you got to let it come out of the body, but the other habit of having something in his mouth and in his hand, that also comes with just creating that other habit, which for him was to have a candy or have a piece of gum. So he always had those little Mentos or candies, whatever he had, close to him because he was, and he succeeded. He stopped smoking after that.
That's a great point. Replacing something unhealthy with a more healthier option. Like I was actually watching a video today. There's a guy he was talking about. He went to Japan and he actually ate more there. And when he came back,
He was
like he actually
skinnier.
lost weight.
Yeah. Well, because of the quality of food, right? When we think about processed foods over here, there's certain ingredients in those foods that the body doesn't even know what it is. I mean, if you look at the ingredients usually in those processed foods, I mean, it's a paragraph, right?
Yeah.
So whatever they put in there for taste, colors, preservation, those foods have to stay on the shelves for a certain amount of time. What is that? What do they put in there? Have we ever asked ourselves, what the hell do they
Yeah.
put in those
Yeah.
foods that they could stay on the shelf, like that's Cheese Whiz or whatever? What is that? I don't even, I keep bringing that up because I don't even understand what it is. So if you cut that stuff out and you put just natural foods in your body, the body will process it the way it's supposed to process it, right? And
Right.
not just kind of, I don't know what that is. What am I going to do with that? And then it just messes your body up. Just messes your body up. So yeah, you're right. I know some people also that go to Italy that are gluten intolerant, for example, and they're able to have the pizza. They're able to have the bread over there. Why?
Wow.
Because of the quality of the soil and the quality of the grain that grows from that soil. That has no the junk that they put in that's on the soil, like
GMOs and all
the
that. Yeah.
GMOs and all that stuff. And they'll go there and they're able to eat what they can't eat over here. That's another example.
Yeah, most of these
Just
like fast food places, the food comes from the same few companies, like or is Cisco, I think it's called, or like they.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So that's the unfortunate part, but that doesn't mean that we cannot create our own little health bubble within this, within this ecosystem of all the kind of foods that we have available and the easy, the easy way we could get those foods. We have to create our own little bubble, and that comes like once you get to that mindset, you figure out how to do it.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say, it sounds to me like a life hack. You're figuring out, okay, instead of me waking up 7 a.m., I go for, the Nabisco cookies or whatever, the cookies I got at the store. Instead of doing that, you say, wait a second, let me go on a 5-minute walk. Or
Right.
like you said with the gum, pop some healthy gum, maybe no sugar gum.
Right.
Instead, so you kind of like hack your brain into, okay, I'm not going to go for that cookie. I'm going to do something else. And because I do something else, it's going to stick, like you're saying.
Exactly. Because that other thing is going to make you feel good, and that's automatic. People always tell me, how long does it, how long does it take before I see results, or how long does it take before I could see my body change? I tell them, like, when you start working out with weights and things like that, it's going to take you a few months, right, to start seeing, at least a few weeks, to start seeing your body morph and change. And but the good feeling that you get after a workout, and if you go to the gym, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you go to the gym, when I go to the gym especially, I go because I know I'm going to feel great after my workout. There's this feeling that you get after a workout that I can't get with anything else, right? So except probably sex or something like that. But it's really the invigoration, just moving your body, just doing movements that does something to your body. That's why I go to the gym. I don't go like because I know I'm going to grow my biceps an inch extra, or my chest, or I'm going to be able to squat 700 pounds. I don't go for those reasons, right? I just enjoy the feeling I get from moving my body, and that's a feeling that you carry throughout the day, right? And that's what. And I do it early in the morning. My workouts are usually like first thing in the morning. So I wake up like call it 5 o'clock or 5:30, depending on the day. Sometimes even earlier. I do my
Wow.
workout and then I go on with my day. But that feeling I get will carry me through the day. I'll feel better. I make better decisions. I'm more focused, right? Just because of that movement session that I did early on that day.
Oh, wow.
So
Yep.
and that's something that you get the first time you go to the gym, the first time you move your body. So imagine you start with that, you start having that good feeling the first time. That's just gonna get that ball rolling again. Like, it's physics, right? Like, in order for a ball to kind of roll, and it needs that kinetic energy from the top. And once that ball falls, then it starts going faster. You just have to bring that ball to the edge of that cliff, and once it's there, boom, you got that kinetic energy, and everything is in movement. You just have to go there and trust that you will feel better once you start moving your body, because that's all it's about. When I do my sessions, when companies call me, I've done stuff for NASA, TSA, all those government agencies. When I go, I don't go and say, "Oh, we're gonna work out." I say, "We're gonna move." It's about movements. Motion is lotion, and I always say that to people. You move your body, and you feel better. Like, everything just feels better. You're less stressed. You're less angry. If you had an argument earlier, you move your body. You don't feel that anger linger in your body anymore. It's magic. It's really, when you think about a magic pill, that people think, oh, what's the magic pill that will cure all? I think movement is the magic pill. And if you could just commit to just doing a few minutes a day at first, I promise you that 5 minutes will become 20 minutes in no time, and 30 minutes in an hour.
Yeah. Why do you think the brain just totally rejects this idea at first? At first, you
Yeah, well,
wake up, it's 5 a.m., and you're just like, oh man, I could really go for that cookie over there.
right.
It's tough to break, like you're saying, but
I know.
it has to be done.
But again, like, we're talking about habits, right? The brain has two different parts. I'm not a doctor, uh, but I read a lot about that, because that's my business, right? Like, how do you motivate someone to change habits, right? So I love to learn about the brain and the psychology of a person, on how to kind of help someone change habits, right? So from what I read, the brain has two parts. One part is habits, right? All the little things that we've learned since we're kids, go in a specific part of the brain. We call it the habit. I call it the habits part. And these are the things that, again, when you drive to work, you don't even think about. Oh, am I turning here? Am I turning there? No, it's automatic. It's a habit. When whatever you do, you brush your teeth. It's a habit. How you even dry yourself after you take a shower, you probably do 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Like, even that motion is a habit. Even, when you brush your teeth, I'm sure it's like a certain amount of strokes this way, then you go to that side, then you go to this side. Like, even that is like, a habit. So everything that you've created since you're a child go in that part of the brain that is called a habit. Those habits don't take a lot of energy for the body. The mind doesn't think about those things because it's in a specific part of the brain. You don't think about it. It takes very little energy. Creating a habit takes a lot of energy. The body, the mind, will fight you before that habit is created, because the body, again, I mean, the mind doesn't like to waste energy. The mind is
Right.
very lazy. It wants
Right.
it doesn't want to spend a lot of time figuring out something. It loves habits because habits are easy, no energy. Creating a habit takes a lot of energy. So when you're used to waking up and the first thing you go is in the kitchen and take your cookie, that's a habit. That's easy, right? Asking your body to break that habit and create another habit is going to be hard. But again, that's why I say, like, the desire has to be there to want to do something, to want to change. So when
Yeah.
you're telling yourself, I can't do this anymore, then you started already that mechanism. That's the ignition. That's the thing that's gonna tell you, all right, I don't want to do this anymore. What am I gonna do? You know what? I want to do what this crazy French trainer said. I want to go for that 5 minute walk and see what happens. Now you started that new habit, okay? But then you got to do it over and over. Some days it's going to be nice. Some days it's going to be rain. Some days it's going to snow, right? That's why sometimes having a partner could help a lot, right? Somebody that gives you accountability. That's why, people hire trainers. That's why you maybe have a friend that have similar goals, and you're like, you know what? Every morning at 6 o'clock, let's meet at the park. Let's just do 2 loops around the park, right? So somebody's waiting for you, rain or shine. Somebody's gonna wait for you. You're not gonna stay in bed if you know somebody's waiting for you, and then the habit becomes much easier to keep up, right? And then next thing you know, that's it. That habit of cookie is broken. Now you have that new habit, right? So that's it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's a
Right.
little how that brain works. The brain hates creating new things because it takes a lot of energy, and think about the brain as this lazy animal that just wants easy stuff, right?
It doesn't want to do anything. It doesn't want to be made to go over here, go do this,
Exactly.
go
And I
do
think
that.
it has to do with probably survival. I think it has some kind of instinct of way back then where, you
Yeah.
know, it's we have to survive. Like, how do we do this? And you kind of relate more on habits and things like that than just creating something that you don't know what's the outcome of that, right? So I don't know. I'm just making this up. But what I know is it's hard to create a habit at first, but then after time, with time, after repetitions, that habit becomes that new kind of thing that you're creating becomes a habit, and that goes into that other part of the brain, which is the easy part.
Well, it seems like before the habit is formed, you have to have commitment. You have to say, I'm going to do this despite how I feel.
Right.
And
But again, that has to come from something. Something has to spark you. Again, a smoker will never stop smoking, especially if they enjoy smoking. What's the motivation for them to say, you know, especially if let's say, your father's a smoker, you keep telling him, Dad, you got to stop smoking. You got to stop smoking, and he enjoys smoking. Why would he stop smoking, right? But it gets to a point where the smoker or any person that has a bad habit or unhealthy habit says, that's going to kill me eventually,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm going to develop some kind of cancer,
Right.
or I'm going to have some complications of somehow. It never ends well. Somebody smoking, rare are the ones that live long lives, or those who are super heavyweight. It's rare that they live a healthy life, and they're able to do everything without any complications, right? They're
Right.
always going to be, their joints are going to hurt more. They're not going to have the same energy as somebody else that's a little slimmer. That's a known fact. There's no, oh yeah, some of them do that. No, it's much harder to do it when you're carrying that much weight. So then that person says to himself, God, I see my kids, they're playing outside. I want to be able to join them. I want to be able to spend some time with them, but I don't have the energy, or my back is hurting me, or my knees are hurting me. I don't have that energy to kind of run after them. If that feeling is a lot more than the pleasure of smoking or eating, then that's when you start reshifting your mindset, right? So you have to that element of, what, I'd rather spend more time with them, and I'd rather be able to have that energy, and I want to see them grow, and I don't want to die before they reach puberty, or I want to walk my daughter down the aisle when she gets married. If that feeling is bigger than having that cigarette every day, then that's it. Your mind has started to shift, and then you start thinking of, all right, what am I going to do to stop that? And then you find the resources you need that will work for you to do that.
Right. So
So
would you say that you have to, so to speak, hit a rock bottom? Do you
almost
have
a
to hit
rock
rock
bottom, yes.
bottom to like finally open up your eyes, open up your ears, and say, wait a second, I'm 350 pounds or 400 pounds. I can't keep doing this. I'm going to die if I keep doing this.
Right. And a rock bottom is different for everybody, right? What is a rock bottom for someone might be a different level for somebody else, right? So a rock bottom for someone that had a heart attack, that's the heart attack probably is the rock bottom. Like, that's it. I can't
Right.
do this anymore, right? But
Right.
somebody that is 350 pounds or 400 pounds and cannot stand up because their joints are hurting, they can't do any, a lot of the activities that their friends are doing. Maybe that's a rock bottom right there, right? or they're just not themselves anymore. And that could be another rock bottom, right? So it's everybody has a different rock bottom, but I think for somebody to want to do something, they have to reach that point themselves where they're like, I can't do this anymore, right?
100%.
You,
Yeah.
you could have a
100%.
million people around them telling them, look, you can't eat like this, or you can't smoke like this, or you can't do the drugs like this, or whatever it is, whatever bad habit they do, it has to come from themselves. Then you could support those people once they reach out and say, listen, what could I do to be healthier? Then then they reach out to their peers and friends and things like that. But
Exactly.
you could support that person. You could say, listen, whatever you're doing is not healthy. I'm here for you for whatever you need. I just want you to understand that. And but that kind of feeling of I'm ready to do something, that has to come from them.
Exactly. We're at the top of the hour, man. That hour flew by.
Oh my God. That's unbelievable how time
Already
flies,
done.
huh? Unbelievable. I hope we learned something today. I hope that your viewers and listeners will get something out of this. But again, it's if there's one takeaway from today's talk is if you're new to this, if fitness is something that is new to you, start with something small. Think about something that you could commit to and do it. I don't care how small it is. It could be just one stretch in the morning, one stretch. It'll take you 30 seconds. If that's what you could commit to, start with that. And I promise you, it will snowball into bigger changes.
No, excellent advice, man. Before we get out of here, where can the audience find you at?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is at Laurent Amzallag, which is my name, LaurentAmzallag. I also have a YouTube channel where I post a lot of workouts and a lot of fitness tips that people could get for free. It's also my name, Laurent Amzallag. And my Instagram, I post a bunch of also fitness related stuff.